Hello. Nope. Hang on. I think I might have a tab open somewhere, but I've got like 90 million tabs. Does anybody hear a double, or is it just me?
Nope.
We don't hear a double.
All right, I'm straight. At least nobody else heard it, so it was just me, but it was going to make me crazy. When you're hearing yourself back, I'm like, oh, I have a YouTube tab open somewhere because I copied the link because I wanted to post it. So, hello and welcome to a very chaotic start to Authortubers React. I have my co-host with me, and we have a guest host with us, Richard. Barrett will be here soon. Duty calls, that job, I swear. So I'm going to let my co-hosts go ahead and introduce themselves. We're going to start with Des and then go to Richard and swing it back around to me. Go ahead, Des.
Sounds good. Hello, friends. I am Desiree Ortega. You could find me over on YouTube at Coffee Reading Writing. I post weekly videos on Wednesdays. I stream Mondays at 8 p.m. Eastern, right by the Moon live streams. And I'm under social media under Desiree M. Ortega, and that's where you can find me.
Am I going now?
Go now.
Off to a good
All
start.
you, Richard.
No, we needed a dramatic pause. It's fine.
Oh, that's right. We love a bit of drama, don't we? My name's Richard. I am an author from the UK. Who would have thought? I'm the author of Priceful, which is my new book. So go and buy that now. It is a sort of techno thriller set in a world where corporations run rampant, which to some is a nightmare and to some is a dream. Whichever side of the fence you're on, go and buy it now. Esther.
I had to unmute myself. Hi, I'm Esther Marie Andujar. I am a Puerto Rican writer aspiring to be a hybrid author. I'm the queen of links, and I have a headache, and I also write things. Just follow the links. Charliee.
Hi, my name is Charliee. I definitely feel like I probably should have put my channel in a bubble below, but my YouTube channel is literally just my name. So here, and yeah, I will eventually get back to posting videos and doing the YouTube things. But for now, my life has been taken over by video games.
I love that for you, Charliee.
Seriously,
So.
I do love that for you.
You deserve to relax.
We approve.
Yes.
All of us approve.
Yeah,
School has been a lot. You deserve it.
I'm gonna be a FOMO one day. That's my future career. But yeah, so that's me. And yeah, take it away, Zara.
My name is Zara Hoffman. I'm a lot of things, but first and foremost these days, I'm the founder of Inimitable Books, LLC, a small publishing company dedicated to uplifting marginalized voices without pigeonholing authors into writing about their trauma. Our first title, The Legionnaire, comes out June 6, 2023, so coming up soon. It's up for pre-order. If you pre-order, you get 3 cool pieces of art. If you pre-order from the author's local bookstore, you get a 4th piece of art, and the book will be signed. So all of that is available on the publisher website, and I'll leave a link to that in the chat a little bit later. I am one half of the Writish podcast with Kelly Wright, where we talk about all things writing related, from shining new idea through publication and marketing, whether you're on the self-indie or traditional path to publishing. And lastly, I am the self-published author of 7 books, a young adult paranormal romance trilogy, a new adult sci-fi romance trilogy, and a standalone young adult dystopian romance novel. I plan to branch out of the romance genre with my next book, which is a new adult spy thriller. But when that'll be done, who knows? And I am a permanent co-host on this awesome series by Nia.
Thanks. And you're here on my channel, Nia, the Vixen of Fiction. In addition to hosting Authortubers React, I also host Scripting the Book, where we talk about books that have been made into TV and TV shows and movies, and we have done a whole slew, so you can check out the roster for anything that you might have liked. But coming up, we have Shadow and Bone, Game of Thrones, Bullet Train, Crazy Rich Asians, Artemis Fowl. If you're interested in any of those and more, just go ahead and follow my channel and check it out. So we'll be doing that once a month. I think next up we have Artemis Fowl. So I'm looking forward to it. And we're gonna get Charliee in the bubble. So are you on your laptop, Charliee?
I am.
And
I
this is
got
for
it.
anybody
I'm doing it for her.
Oh, she's gonna do it for you. So those 3 dots by the microphone on your face and the little square that you're on, you can add it there, and Zara just did it for you.
Why? Thank you. Oh my gosh, I feel so special now. Thank
Welcome
you.
to the Bubble Club.
So anybody who has not streamed yet on StreamYard, when you go in, that is how you do it. And then the person who's the admin just needs to flip the little switch to say turn on the what do they call
Headlines.
it? Headline.
It's under brand.
Yes. All right. So little tips for fellow Authortubers and future Authortubers if you're wanting to start a channel. We have oh my gosh, so many people here. Hello, hello, hello. Hey, Afro K, and Ben is here. Oh, hello, Princess Bunny John. And I'm going to do this, and Zara knows what it means.
Sorry, I hadn't realized you clicked on the comment and then.
I'm going to let Zara handle the chat. So you are good to go. I'm hands off. I'm good.
Yeah, you just have to host.
Right. So I'm just going to go over to the banners. Any preference on what we talk about first? We've got 2 hot button items that might go long. I'm thinking I want to just get the Susan Meachen out of the way.
Let's do that.
So let's get this out of the way. Okay. We all know from if you watched the last show or if you've been anywhere on Twitter or YouTube, Susan Meachen faked her ending of her life, said that her family did it, she didn't do it, and yet she still remained on the internet under what they call it, a sock puppet account or something like that, a sock account, where you make another account pretend to be somebody else. But the reason why she said she got off is because the writing community was so toxic and bullying her. But
minor detail, they also raised money for a funeral.
Yes.
So like it wasn't just like a social problem. Money was involved.
Money was involved, which is why follow up. She got a visit from the FBI because we can't do that. It's one thing if they start a fund for her, but the family took the money and used it. So yeah,
that's called fraud, people.
That is called fraud. We can't do that. A couple other things I have linked down below. Reads with Rachel. She did a complete follow-up with it because some of the people from the romance writing community that were involved in the story contacted her to clear some things up. One of which was that the book that came out was dedicated to her, the Bully Romance anthology, but it was not created because of her. It was already going to be a thing. So they didn't say, oh, let's make a bully romance thing for Susan. They were already going to do it.
Bully romance.
It's a trope.
It's a trope. I'm not here for it.
Who like it, it's their thing. Not for me.
Sounds a bit like enemies to lovers in a way.
No.
It's like there's enemies. There's levels. There's rivals.
Contemporary, and
enemies.
It's all trauma that I've lived through. So no, thank you. Whereas at the very least, I can say I've never had a sword like held to my throat in like the high fantasy enemies to lovers version.
Yeah, that's a little different to me. Rivals when one team versus the other or one high school versus the other. Enemies where one kingdom or one kingdom's family versus the other kingdom's family. Bullying is another level. It's not my cup of tea. If it's your cup of tea, I'm not going to knock it, but I'm also not going to read it. But so they were going to do it anyway, but in lieu of what allegedly happened to Susan Meachen, they dedicated it. So they wanted to clear that up. and just clear up some of the levels of harassment that they received. They were terribly harassed. Some of them harassed and chased off of the internet for things that they hadn't actually done. So a lot of that is cleared up. Did anybody else want to say anything about things you shouldn't do? Just leave. That's my opinion. Just if it's too toxic for you, sayonara. Let people know y'all are toxic. I'm out.
Also, though,
I
like, I
mean,
feel
the
like if
same
you really-
way your feet walk forward, they can go backwards. So
I just
Yeah.
feel like if you really think a group is toxic, like telling them they're toxic isn't necessarily going to change them. So I would have just like silently dipped out.
But she didn't even do that. She created a whole nother account and like was friendly with everyone as
Yeah.
if they were all best buds. And I was like, but then wasn't the whole point that you thought that community was toxic? So you
And why would
left
you
it
come
because
back?
you were being bullied, but you come back in a new identity, and it's not like you're calling them out with this new identity. You just befriended everyone like if nothing was wrong.
Authors behaving badly rarely make logical sense.
Yeah.
It sounds like she was just bored with her life and needed some drama, so she made some up.
And
Did you really write a
And-
book about it?
drama.
And never expected
maybe,
it to blow up
maybe
in her
she needed
face.
inspiration for her next book.
Maybe.
Maybe,
What Esther
but
said.
kept the ruse for 2 years and then suddenly decides this was the way to go. Come back and
Maybe Hulu will make a TV show about it.
An autobiography.
Who has time for this, to be honest?
Right.
You would
Well,
be
she does,
surprised.
obviously. She did it.
Yeah, you would be
Well, when
surprised.
she no longer had to pretend like be herself, she could put all her energy in pretending to be someone else. So it's not like she was running double lives. She just won and then moved on to another.
I mean, Ben, if my Amazon ads don't take off, that is what I'm going to end up doing for my new book. So watch this space.
I don't think it works if you announce it ahead of time.
Whoops.
You messed it up now.
She should have just written fan fiction, much as read it. Like if she wants drama, she can write her own fan fiction.
Well, now
Yeah.
she can, because now she has all this drama to spin another way.
Exactly.
She can just
I'm
make
sure
a
she'll make
third
it all about
penny.
her somehow. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there is one other thing that she wanted to clear up, or that because she spoke out. So, but the husband basically is taking the fall, saying that he's the one who initiated with some type of statement like Susan has left for greener pastures or something to that effect. And then people, I guess, didn't know what was meant by it. So it was the alleged daughter. And the daughter is the one who's also being thrown under the bus, saying it was the alleged daughter that said, my mom has passed, which is why she's obviously not responding. And then the whole thing about the last book and the wedding and all of these things rolled after that. So
I wonder why where the family was, that they were so financially like burdened that they had to fake all of this. Because if they were all
I don't think they were financially burdened. I think they just decided to scam people.
yeah, and I don't
I'm
think
sorry,
it worked because I don't feel like this. I don't know if the sales were improved. Like,
I don't think
much.
they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they were even.
Yeah.
I'm sure that like SEO ranking on Google went up because everyone's suddenly like, who is this person? But I don't think
Yeah.
the sales themselves got.
Sales wise, yeah.
Yeah.
exactly. Anybody else? Any more thoughts on this craziness? This was wild.
Mm-hmm. Just a lot of reiterating what I said last week, or last show.
Yeah.
So
all I can do is just shake my head in despair.
Yeah. Don't do this if you're thinking about
Don't do it.
pulling a stunt like this. Please message DM your Authortube friend and be like, is this a good idea? And let them tell you no.
Also,
No.
Actually listen to your Authortube friends when they tell you no. Like if multiple people in this community are telling you something, it's not
It
a
might be
conspiracy to stop you from like succeeding. It's genuinely, this is a bad idea, and we're telling you to please not do it.
Yeah, because one day you're gonna want to come back with whatever name that is, and everybody's gonna be like, really? Wow. Because I think someone's comment was really wow. Like when she came back, like, do you not
I mean, if
remember?
you want to disappear, you don't have to like create a ruse where you unalive yourself and things like that. Just
Yeah, just go.
disappear. Just stop posting. That's it.
People will
It's
figure
very
it out.
easy.
And if you are struggling, get professional help. Go to a therapist. Don't
That part,
this
100%.
this everything. I mean, because supposedly she was actually really suffering from mental struggling mental health wise, and because of bullying and a bunch of other things, and that valid, okay, but then you go and seek help from people who can professionally help you.
And also, there are a
Because-
lot of like cheaper ways to do that now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, I can't financially afford that. It's like there
Yeah.
are some websites that you can do.
And
Taking
Also,
this
find
route.
yourself a new husband and daughter who
Mm.
don't go straight to the, okay, we'll just kill you off for a while.
Yeah, it just and it was,
I was like,
just
forget
so
those people.
poorly done, especially
Yeah,
the-
separate yourself from the people who are supposedly responsible for the fraud and the FBI showing up to your home if you don't want that to happen again.
Yeah.
Yeah, not a
Sounds
good
like
idea. That was not. That wasn't it. That was not
because
the way
it
to
wasn't
go.
a one-time thing. Like they kept pushing the ruse. They kept going, even like time after coming back and saying all these things as if it was still the reality. And you know,
I wonder if
It's
they
a-
asked Reddit beforehand.
mm,
It
We
sounds
all know what this is, and I just
Okay, yeah. All right, let's move on to another topic because we've got like 4 more to get through. Let's do our good friends over at Amazon.
Shiver me timbers.
mm.
Surprise, surprise, but there's a problem.
we
Just
should
a
just
little
call
one.
it the jungle so that like if it's like scanning through like if they're using AI to find slander against them, it doesn't find us.
Yeah. Otherwise, very good for many other things. Here's the thing: I was telling everybody backstage. Remember when they were last time there was a problem with Amazon, and everybody started speaking up. It actually helped. So there was a problem where authors who had digital books online were getting their books read fully 100% and then returned for a full refund. And then they were blaming the authors, saying the authors shouldn't have used that money, because you cash in every so often when you have an Amazon book. And so authors were ending up in the negative and owing money because for books that were returned and they had to refund after they got paid for them. People were reading these books. One of them, it was a TikTok hack, and they were like, "Hey, this is how you just read a bunch of books for free."
This was on a previous Authortubers React episode.
So they changed that policy, and it's now something like the 10%, like it should be, anyway. But it took a lot of people complaining about it and complaining about it and complaining about it. So here we are again. Pirated work. If an author's work is pirated, they will get banned from Kindle Unlimited.
So this is just for clarification. This is for books that are enrolled on the Kindle Unlimited program, which has an exclusivity clause, and
For
this is why
90
a lot of
days.
people are losing their entire account, equals their entire livelihood.
Yeah.
So
And
that's
it's
the problem.
It's because, like, while you can opt in and out of the program every 90 days for any book, and it's not like, oh, if you're in the program, all your books are automatically in it. If your book is pirated and shows up on another site during that period, Amazon is just canceling you and not doing anything.
Yeah, because you now have a violation. It's in the clause. You have this violation. So it's not like they
Even
just
though you
block
didn't do
that
it.
book. They don't. Even though you did nothing, they don't just block that book. You could lose your entire account. All of your books, any works that you have, are
It's
done.
a very kind of really short-sighted interpretation of the situation. Not thinking, well, how did this book get on site XYZ? They think,
Mhm.
oh, it's available somewhere else. You've broken your agreement with KDP, and bye-bye. Which seems like a really harsh and narrow interpretation of their terms of service. But yeah,
Time is
to
money,
me,
and it saves them time.
yeah,
Mm.
it seems
And
to
it's
me it
not
would be
even
very
a verified retailer. Like, it's not like you're checking if this is a verified retailer. No, these are just like one-off, very weird name websites.
Yeah, I
Like-
feel like they should, if they're using AI or something to like scan for whether or not the book is somewhere else during the 90-day period, they should only be checking like big retailers where it's like, oh, did the author break their agreement? And even then, you know, a pirater could put it on one of those big sites and that would like absolutely suck. But if it's just somewhere on the internet, do you really think the author put it up on some random, like, I've never heard of this website ever?
Yeah, and it would be a very. I feel like it would be a more effective thing to take not the whole author's, you know, site down, like don't shut down the author, but maybe pause that story and send them an email saying you're in violation because we found your work here. Is this you? And give you a chance to rectify the situation if it was you. Say you put your story up on something and forgot. Give you a chance to take it down, or give you a chance to say, no, that's not me. My work has been pirated. In which case they can then go after the pirating site. That's theft. They stole it. They pirated it.
So pretty much people who have, like, author who have voiced out the situation, who has lost their, either momentarily or completely their accounts, their books were on KU. Because if you're like, if you're not,
they
on
wouldn't
the
have
program,
uploaded their ebook through Ingram Spark if they were planning
Yeah.
to be in the Kindle Direct.
Okay, you can. Like, it's if you're in KU, your ebook is only in KU. Your paperback and hardcover could be on different retailers. If you're outside of the program, then your ebooks, paperbacks, and hardbacks can be in any
Anywhere.
retailer that you decide to upload them.
Mhm. But Kindle Direct means that your ebook can only be on Amazon for the 90 days of you opting into the program. And then if you have the toggle where it automatically re-enrolls you with the program, then it's basically just forever until you
stop
turn it off at the end of a 90-day period. But it's not like, oh, someone had uploaded their books to Draft to Digital or Ingram Spark and had it pushed out everywhere, and then they were being canceled by the Jungle because they would have had to, like, in the agreement of I'm agreeing to opt in to be exclusive for this, any author who is smart would have then gone to the other websites and like removed it from distribution or something first. Mm-hmm. But if you're planning on being in Kindle Direct, I just wouldn't put it anywhere else first. And then if you're putting all my eggs in one basket isn't working for me, I'm then gonna do wide distribution. Do that after you've tried it. Like, don't have it up anywhere else, even if it's not up for distribution, in case they do this.
There's an error or something.
First, ask questions later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think it's absurd. There's no way that they should be punishing authors who have had their work stolen.
I think the worst thing is the kind of like summary justice they're doling out. It's not like an appeals process, a time to rectify it. They're not like notifying the authors and going like, there's a problem here, you've got X number of days to resolve it. It's just like, right, boom, you're gone.
But we've seen this before where Amazon will just take down a person's site. They don't know what they've done. And then they're sending email after email trying to figure out what violation have I done. The violation, the very generic violation that I'm getting in this email is not helping me.
It's not good enough.
There's hardly a
great example was Sarah Sutton that got her account. She got kind of like kicked out of her account because Amazon put her audiobook on the wrong category. It's not even the way that she showed.
And then she went in to edit it and was like, this category isn't even on it. It was a glitch on their end where they thought it was in the wrong category.
Exactly.
And it took forever for them to resolve it. Because she obviously immediately tried to resolve it when she got an answer of what was wrong, even though that took forever for her.
And it feels like you only get an AI response. Like you're not getting real humans on the case that you can communicate with. Like Esther said earlier, there's no communication for authors. There's no central place where authors on the platform can go and talk.
not.
And if they need
No forum.
yeah, there's
You're on your own essentially, because
you're on your own.
because I've had to, I've had some malicious reviews on a book of mine. That's another story. We won't go into that. And I've sent about 3 emails to the customer, and you just think you're sending these emails into the ether. Nothing happened. It's just being absorbed by this humongous kind of like entity, and you kind of just despair and think, well, what's the point? What's the point? You're trying to do the right thing, and you're just thinking, well, sod it, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean,
It doesn't even make sense for they're big indie authors, because trad pubs do have like people they can call directly, but if you have like there's big indie authors, it doesn't make sense that they don't have a rep that they can reach out. Exactly. Like I will understand smaller, it will be similar to how YouTube works. Like only the really big channels have reps on YouTube who they can talk directly, and then us will just have to deal with generic emails. But not even that. Amazon doesn't even have that for like their big fish in the publishing.
They don't really care about us. And like they started out the initial premise of them was to be the world's largest bookstore, but like online. And then they started branching into everything else. And now that's where they make
everything else.
Like they don't care about
like this was what started it all. It literally was
their bread and butter, isn't it?
That's how it got started. And now it's everything else. And a lot of other things get better attention than the book and publishing side of things that started the whole thing. So my hope is that with enough people talking about it, because it is very beneficial for authors in a lot of ways. There's a lot of flaws, but a lot of authors who would not have otherwise have been able to make money doing this. So I'm not going to knock it in that sense. But come on, some of these things, like it's a no-brainer. Let's work out some of these kinks.
I think Eva's comment is kind of interesting. She's put that it's just a printing press, it's not a publishing house. Why do we expect more? So it's a shame you can't sort of sign up to some kind of representation. I know on YouTube there used to be this thing called, multi-channel networks that would give you like some kind of strength in numbers if you were all signed up, and then if you had any kind of like legal issues or whatever, that organisation have a bit more clout with actual YouTube. It's a shame there's not something like that for independent authors who may not want a publisher, but just some kind of like representation. And either it's not a union I'm talking about. It's not a union.
Although it did work for HarperCollins.
I will say, in most cases, it is just a printing press. However, once you get into having the sign and exclusivity, then then it does take over that kind of publishing.
It becomes a publisher and distributor, and it's no longer just
go ahead,
a manufacturer and shipping.
So even if we look at it as a printing press business, one is a business, so your customer service has to be top notch if you want to keep being on business. Two, a lot of people can get better communication with a actual paper mill copy, whatever thing, however those business are called. So it's just like we're not demanding more for Amazon because we are still in the mentality that that's the only thing we have. And if it's the only thing we have, it's still not an excuse to demand better.
Right. We could always want better regardless.
Because we're making them money. So
we are making them money. And I think that we need to remember that when we're putting our stuff out there, that we work for them, we're making money for them, but they also need to be working for us.
Yes.
So it should be more symbiotic, not one-sided.
I think the trouble is Amazon have such a humongous market share that they don't have to innovate anymore. And it's quite irritating because they can get away with doing the bare minimum. It's like, for instance, you can't do a paperback pre-order on Amazon, and they got no inclination to it because they are doing just fine as they are. They've got like 75-80% of the market share or whatever it is. I mean, Goodreads, and do we need to say anything about that train crash?
And there's no reason why they would ever add dust jackets like Ingram Spark has. It's only the case laminate and stuff because it's just like we can do whatever we want.
That costs them money.
But things might start to change because it's not related to like publishing portion, but there's a lawsuit against Amazon because of their 2-day shipping, and they've been for a long time not making good of their promise, and that's false advertisement. So they have a lawsuit going on.
Yeah,
so
because we're paying for
one way or another, people will start demanding better for Amazon, because if I'm paying for a service and I'm not getting that service, you either show up or I'm going to find something better.
Mm-hmm. They realized that they messed up with Goodreads when people were willing to pay to track their book reading on Storygraph.
Wow.
Although I use BookHype because it's free and beautiful, and you can track special editions of books on there, including book box editions.
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
Not sponsored. I'm not. She's not. This channel isn't. Just expressing my love for bookhype.com.
Yeah. Right?
Well, this is the thing. You pay for Prime, you expect a service, and if they're not fulfilling that service, you're like, what's going on?
Also, if you
as authors, we are expecting a service from a press print and a distribution company. So,
I mean, this is, again, their bread and butter is selling us stuff and shipping it to us very quickly with their great distribution system. So I'm still annoyed that author copies can't be used with Amazon Prime. You have to pay shipping for them. And it's, saying that, I did get my author copies of Price War through Amazon in 2 days. So I can't really complain.
Yeah. It's like they do that, right? It's like, this is so good, but then that. You know,
that little tiny bit they could do better. That's quite irritating.
Yeah, and it's funny because around here, we're one of the people who suddenly 2-day shipping was no longer 2-day shipping, and everybody rediscovered the other big monopoly. The WM would get you your stuff the same day.
Wait, what's the WM?
Walmart.
Oh.
I was making sure.
Good thing someone isn't here.
Yeah. But I'm like, if I'm going to have to go with these two major, big, huge capitalist things, I'd rather split it up anyway. Why am I going to give all my money to just one? Let's go ahead and split it up. Make them duke it out. Just give me my stuff in 1 or 2 days. And the W will sometimes get me my stuff in 1 day. So I'm just like,
interesting.
Just saying.
I cannot relate. I never pay for any of the fast shipping. So it just comes when it comes. And I'm like, wow,
I wish I could go back to that, because now I feel back. I wish I could, though, because I'm like, not to a time when I didn't know that this was possible.
Yeah.
I have recently discovered the awesomeness.
Just move out of the US. Move out of the US and don't be in the UK, and you're gonna experience
it's
not
too late.
2-day
Now
shipping.
I don't have Prime. My mom does, and so like she'll tell me to use her account if I need something or whatever. But if I'm buying something for the publishing business, I did like the free
30-day
trial for Business Prime. And so like I really wasn't paying for shipping then during that trial. But once that ran out, I was like, I'm not paying extra. I can wait 5 to 7 days for something. If it were really urgent, I'd walk the 6 blocks to the
I want it now.
and grab it.
But then you discover
Prime when I was before I left. I had Prime in Puerto Rico, and after coming back, I had Prime for a little bit. And it was for me, instead of 2 days, it was 2 weeks at the earliest. And I'm like, I am not paying you anymore because you will never deliver. Because this was the saying. They were like, well, it's because of the panini or whatever. I'm like, no, man, you've been like this since before the quarantine and before Maria wrecked Puerto Rico. So no.
I've discovered that I enjoy tracked shipping. I order something and I'm on my phone every hour going, has my tracked shipping changed? And then it comes and I'm like, that's great. Okay, I don't have tracked shipping anymore. What do I do with my life? Time to order something else.
This is a good alternative for books. This is a good alternative for ordering books online. You get the online order experience, but you can select to support a specific local bookstore, or if you don't, it just goes into a giant fund that is then distributed to all the local bookstores that use the website.
I miss shopping at bookshop.org because I don't ship to Puerto Rico.
Oh no!
But I have local bookstores here, so
you can go into a local bookstore and say, "Okay, I can't pick this up and take it with me. Can you just deliver it to me? Ship it to my house, please?" I bet you they will if you beg.
You're like, I'll pay for the shipping, but like, I just literally can't take it with me.
Yeah. Then you get the best of both worlds, you know?
And then they'll love you even more because you're willing to pay them more for shipping.
All right. I might have to mute because I think my daughter's coming home, but she's outside. So Loki's like barking like crazy, waiting for her to come in. But I know, give me a second. But we're going to move on to the next topic. Let's do. All right. So if you are wrenched in the chat, I trust everybody that I've seen so far. But if someone comes in and is acting crazy, let us know. Ban them, boot them out of here. We can have an intelligent conversation, a nuanced conversation.
We don't have time for negativity in 2023. No,
we're not doing that. And no, I'm not one of those, but you put it on the internet. And then, no, this is my channel. It's mine. Get out if you can't behave, get out.
I agree with that.
So, publishers and authors altering published works. How do we feel about this?
Well, should we explain more?
Yeah, I think some people in the chat like aren't very sure. This isn't like, oh, there's a typo and you self-publish your book, and therefore you're uploading a new interior file.
Yeah.
This is a lot worse than that.
Yeah.
So what is happening is, if you've heard of Loki, nobody wants your opinion about it. Shush. If you've heard about what happened with Dr. Seuss's publishing, it didn't start back there, but this is one case that got a lot of people's attention. The family and the company decided that some of the books weren't what they wanted representing the Dr. Seuss name anymore. So instead of altering those books, I think they are just taking them out of print. So they're just not going to print them anymore.
They pulled them from distribution and they're now out of print.
Yeah. So they did have some negative depictions. I didn't notice it as a child, but it was blaring as an adult, and I'm like, oh.
I had never read the problematic books.
Yeah, which problematic books were these?
There was one with the zoo where a person who wore a certain cultural piece of attire was in a cage along with other animals, like a zoo animal. So like that wasn't cool.
What?
And
the
like
explanation.
I don't want to say the specific name of the book because like people don't need to like go and
no.
search
What's that historical? Was it an exposition where they? Yeah, that. Okay, sorry. Never mind.
That was just one of his like kids' books. He'd also done political cartoons, which like if you knew that from history or whatever, which like that's different. Like they didn't pull those from circulation because they were in a newspaper way back when, and that was it.
Yeah.
Kind of situation. So
yeah, and specifically these ones because these are books that are going to be read by children in books. And I think there was another depiction. I believe it was an Asian family, and they said, imagine find your kid coming home upset because they read this and they saw this thing in this book, and it was not good at all. It was bad. And I'm like, oh, I didn't even realize that was in there. Holy smokes. I just like with the zoo cage thing, once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's just like, I don't want my kids to see that. However, I do love all of these. I have them memorized. I read them to my kids. My kids have read them. And it's just things that if you just don't notice. And then once you see it, you can't unsee it. Yeah. So they decided to do that. The family, the company, they said, we're no longer doing this. So now what's happening, the big case that's hit is the one with Roald Dahl. And they're changing the words to his book. And it's after he's already passed away. So he has no say in it. And they're saying that some of the things that are being changed are maybe not necessarily a big deal to some people, but it is a big deal to other people. And the way I feel about it in general is if the author themselves or the publishing company want to change it, it's their prerogative. You know, I'm usually like, it's their prerogative. They can change it. If it's a school text, even though I don't believe in banning books, but if they need to censor racist comments or derogatory comments, I think that they should just make a note of it, that this has been changed, or we don't say this word in this school. Like if it's the N-word or other very derogatory, just make a note of it. You don't have to ban the books. But that's just how I feel about it. That's what was done for us when we were in school, because our teacher said when we were reading books, she go, there are certain words that are not allowed in her classroom. So if it's not allowed in her classroom, why is she going to let someone read it out loud?
Yeah.
I got in trouble in elementary school because we were reading, I think it was The Watsons Go to Birmingham, which if you don't know is like a book about a Black family going to Birmingham during like the not okay times to be Black down there situation. And someone like didn't get why the N-word wasn't okay. So I was explaining it, but they had said the N-word, and then I got in trouble, and my teacher grabbed me and like was like, you can't say that. And then my mom found out and like raised town, was like, my daughter was explaining why this isn't okay, and you physically grabbed her, which is not okay. So like, and then my high school, they were doing, the middle school connected to my high school was doing Thoroughly Modern Millie, which is a musical, which if you don't know, has a really racist subplot in it. And the middle schoolers were using those racial slurs like outside of rehearsal, because apparently no one took 5 minutes to be like, hey, historically, this was a thing. Wasn't cool then. Like, it was never okay, but it was like normal then. It's not okay now. You can't do this outside of rehearsal. Oh. And then they tried to cancel the musical because the school was like, we don't want to deal with this. And then the parents got mad, and it was a New York City private school. So that drama went on to the New York Times, like, front page or something. And it was like, if you had just taken 5 minutes to explain the cultural context of why this is a racial slur,
it would have solved some of the problem. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else want to chime in with some thoughts about it? Because a lot of people are saying it's this culture's fault. The other side saying we didn't ask for this, and some people are happy about it, and a lot of people are genuinely upset about it. I don't know, because I feel like he's already passed away.
That's what I find iffy. Like, the author already passed. Family or the estate is cashing in on the work he left. And it's just, and also the timing, because the timing is not because it doesn't feel because we are in a heightened place where a lot of books are being banned and things like that. It feels more like, oh, these books are getting close to being public domain, and we are not gonna keep receiving the royalties for that work of books the author left. So how can we kind of like spruce them up so they don't go to public domain and make them relevant again?
Yes.
That's why it
very
feels iffy for me. Because if it's like, if the author is still alive and they realize they are not the person that they used to be when they wrote those books, they have learned, they have grown, and they don't want to leave work that will be detrimental for people and communities they're very much love and respect, then yeah, it's your work. Change it however many times you want. It's just like when the author is not the one making the decision, and the timing
Some of the
feels
changes are
very
significant.
Wait, okay, but
yeah, so,
isn't is Dr. Seuss still alive though?
No.
No. So it's his estate, and they only did it with the children's books, but they just took them out of circulation. They didn't alter his words or edit it.
So is in what context are we talking about the top? I thought do we want to give like a quick rundown just to...
Yeah, so there are some publications, sometimes it's the author, sometimes it's the publication, they're changing the words in their book if they've written something that someone says is offensive, and some people are saying that some of the things are nonsensical in their opinion, and some people are saying but it's their prerogative if they want to change it, whether you like what it is that's being changed or not. Some of them I didn't get it. But then I listened to some other people who were talking about it, and they were like, "This is why it's." And so it's like you can't say that something doesn't matter to somebody else. It is their opinion. If it's harming them, then they're saying it harms me. Then it's harming them. It's up to the publication to decide. This is the way that we put it out here. This is the way we want it. If we can make some clarification, if we want to, we can say nothing and just leave it, or we can change it. It's up to them. I
feel like if there's an edit, you should acknowledge it, like the way that a news article will be like, revised because here's the error that was made in the version that was published like whatever date and time.
Like at the bottom of the page, like, you know, how some people have those little letters to like specify something that they highlighted within the text.
Do an editor's note. Do a page that says editor's note and a paragraph explaining,
or just like have
like
a symbol, and instead of doing it as footnotes, like have an appendix at the back that are basically endnotes where it's like, this was changed because of this. Like, hopefully,
Richard is busting at the seams. Richard is bursting at the seams. Go ahead.
I agree with Zara there. If you're going to change the text of a book, put like an appendix that says, "Oh, we have changed it." It's just this, and I'm talking about the Roald Dahl controversy that has gone on for a week. Is that it didn't seem very transparent. They did it fairly on the sly, and when I read about it earlier this week, I was horrified, and quite frankly, I was really angry about it because I think it's two things. First of all, it's censorship, clear as day, in my opinion. I think it is censorship because we are changing something according to what we want to do now, and I don't think that's right. And actually, I think these books, the Roald Dahl books, they've been around for 50 years, some of them. We have to kind of acknowledge that they do contain language that may not be used today. And the best thing to do with the language is not to hide it and pretend as if it never happened. It is to acknowledge it, and so we can have a conversation about it. We can say, okay, this author has said these words. here's why we may not want to use them now. But I think to change the works in the way that they've done, in a very kind of sly and non-transparent way, it just feels like censorship, to be honest. It's like we can't just edit and sanitize everything to suit how we feel today. And my overriding question is that the books were being changed because they were deemed to contain language that was, to some people, not all, it's important to say, not all, was deemed to be insensitive or unacceptable. Who are these people accountable to? You know, who is deeming it unacceptable? You know, has there been some kind of like survey saying, "Oh, do you want to see this word removed?" Yeah. And I just think we can't do this because what I'm saying is this is a really dangerous kind of slippery slope to be at the top of, because it's like, as authors, we create art, don't we? We all create art. And I think we need to be very careful about whether we want to be in a place where we, you know, are altering and censoring art from the past, maybe, or even fairly contemporary, to suit whoever's vision. And, you know, you may say it's one side or the other, but the pendulum can and will shift the other way, because that's what it does.
Yeah. I will say contractually, though, if you're submitting like a short story to a magazine or you're signing a book contract with the publisher, there might be language in there that allows them to change stuff without the author okaying everything. So I know there's some conversation about like the person who owns the rights, who's the creator of the work, assuming it wasn't a work for hire, in which case like a publisher would be like, we're going to hire you to write this book about blank, or a magazine where it's like, we're going to hire you to write this article about blank, or we're going to hire you to write this story or whatever. And if that's in there, they have every right to change whatever they want without running it by you. So like, I would also just really read your contracts carefully.
Yes, I think that's a really good point to bring up. But I think the approach to these older, and maybe not even older works, just works that have been deemed to be kind of problematic for whatever reason, is not to scrub them up and make it all right, because that seems dishonest, to be honest. I mean, I think the Dr. Seuss example, where the books that are have more issues are just left to go out of print. I think in this whole kind of furore, Philip Pullman said, if these Roald Dahl books are so problematic to today's audience, apparently, let them wither and die. There is plenty of other stuff out there, but I think changing, it's just a very kind of chilling thing to be doing, is changing stuff, because this is going to sound like a bit of a funny question, but where does it stop? You know? Yeah. It's just a slippery slope. I think we need to be real careful about going down, because I think it is dangerous. And as writers, we should be quite concerned about it, because yes, it could be this public figure, but it could also be us.
Yeah. And are these authors going to be praised by future generations for being so inclusive with their work when it's not originally what they actually wrote, or the deeds, like the things that were changed? People are later on, because right now we know about this, but 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, are they going to be celebrating the new edited versions and look at the author as this celebrated figure because they wrote something that was so, which it wasn't their original text. There was actually things that were modified. So that's interesting to kind of like think about.
I couldn't agree more, Desiree. I couldn't agree more, because we're going to get this impression that, oh, this author's written this book from 1970. Oh, weren't they ahead of the curve when they weren't? I mean, to talk about Roald Dahl, he has in recent times been revealed to have some problematic views personally. So we have to take that into consideration. But the works, I think we just need to be really careful. And I think when it comes to language that we find problematic and have issues with, no one wants anyone to be offended. You know, I don't want anyone to be offended. I don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. But I think the best way to challenge that is to kind of have a conversation about it in the open. We need to be able to talk about this sort of stuff and not hide away from it, because I think what we need to do is be bringing up and creating emotionally resilient and emotionally intelligent people who can deal with this. Because I've had experience with this in the past myself, is that, people are said, we won't say anything that you don't like. Then they get into the real world, and when they become 18, I had this at university, and they are left totally unprepared for differing, contrasting other views, and they just don't know how to handle it. And I think it just leads to a lot of maybe unhappiness. I don't know whether it even feeds into the problem we have with mental health, because people are, they're kind of confronted with this. They haven't been prepared for it throughout their kind of childhoods. And I don't know, it just doesn't seem good to me. I think we want to make sure people are ready to handle anything, but I think we just need to have a conversation. And I think this is certainly better than just the publisher kind of slyly. I mean, it only really came out after the Telegraph, which is a newspaper in this country, found out about it, and they posted, side by side comparisons of passages. I mean, this, again, like the Amazon thing, it's only really been addressed. I think Puffin have said they're going to do the classic collection as well as the sanitized / edited collection. They're going to publish them alongside each other, which is, I think, a partial kind of win. But it only really seemed to kind of kick off once. I think it was Camilla, the Queen Consort, the wife of the king, kind of, stuck a roar in. But again, like the Amazon thing, it just takes big people to kind of, make a big noise about it. And I'm glad that it kind of brought this conversation into the kind of forefront, because I think it is a really, really important thing. And, we just need to be real careful what we're doing here, because I think bad things are on the horizon if we choose to go down this particular path.
Could this happen?
I feel like, could this happen to an indie author? I think it could, in the sense that if I have indie published works and I pass away, and years later, a word that I use, which seemed to be fine today, nobody said anything today. 20 years from now, if my work is popular and I'm not here, would my kids want to change it or feel compelled, or would there be complaints that they could change it? And I feel like for me, it would be, what instructions do I leave my kids or whoever I leave in charge of whatever works I leave behind, to how things can or cannot be changed. I might say, yes, you can change to some degree, but with a footnote. Because if there's actually something that's actually harmful, I don't want that out there in my name. And then they can be able to say that, she wrote this at this time when that was a perfectly okay word, but that word no longer means this. It now means this. So, in that case, I might be fine with it. But
it's like the word gay, like that used to just mean happy. And then, now it also applies to, homosexuality, which I have no problem with, but obviously a lot of people do. And it's like, they'll get mad if it's in a book. And I was like, do you not know how to use context clues? Like, it's the old meaning. It means happy. Like,
exactly.
And even if it didn't, it's running up search function through a book, and you're like, oh, it has the word. Like, I'm not going to allow it in. It's like,
I mean, I own books on this shelf right here that have language in them that would definitely not be published today. But I kind of am able to contextualize and think, I'll look to the front of this book. It says copyright 1972. Maybe things meant something different back then. But it's just about having the kind of like emotional intelligence to be able to acknowledge the context. And I think if we kind of go down this route, we're going to end up losing that important conversation. And
when I read that article on
go ahead, Charliee.
When I read the article on Roald Dahl, I have to say I was also angry. I'm very against when people deface statues and monuments because they don't like a person. And I'm not saying that this person needs to be a good person, but you're wrecking a piece of art that once was art. So I'm very for re-putting up something next to the statue
Yes.
Yeah.
this is a
Or
bad
like
person
take
for
down the
this.
original and put it in a
Yeah.
museum.
But by letting people deface art, you're not changing anything. You're not changing the fact that they exist or that they were a bad person. You're just defacing art. And I think that applies to this too. When I was reading the article, I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of Roald Dahl when I was little, just because I just didn't read Roald Dahl. Like, that's it. I like different books. But when I saw some of the words that they got rid of, mind you, this is not in context. Some of them I definitely looked at and I was like, is that how we are today in society? That we are getting so offended by some of these words that are only offended in certain or only offensive in certain contexts.
One of the words was a word that like Taylor Swift literally had to edit out of one of her music videos.
Yeah.
What was? Oh, well, I don't.
Yeah.
I think I know the way you talked about.
Wait, what?
FAT.
Oh, yeah.
I saw
Yeah.
on news channel to get in trouble or whatever.
Yeah,
but-
no,
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna get us in trouble. I'll find out after
Yeah.
this. After this,
It was
YouTube
just
will
like-
let me know.
It's
But,
just kind of like since when? I get that there are some things that are very historically dated, but I also want to I also think of Queen Elizabeth, the British Queen, the second, and her speech, the one that that helped Britain become big and powerful, and she's looked up at for this speech, and the only reason that speech is important is because of the gender norms that in that time period. So when I think about that, if you got rid of all of that, if you deleted that from history, she would not be impressive. She'd just be kind of she would be so less impressive. And it's just interesting that
I get what you're getting at.
It reminds me of Bader Ginsburg. She had a dissenting argument called On the Basis of Sex, which is what the movie about her was called. And now, you have some people who will say that the construct of being born a certain sex is also not accurate and is invalidating and a type of linguistic gender violence against some people. And I'm not getting into whether or not that's right or wrong, but for her to have used that word as much as she did was huge, because she's a woman in a law firm that basically doesn't want her there. And writing this monumental piece about gender equality within the framework of what gender equality meant back then.
Yeah.
And if people were suddenly to go back in there and change it to be on the basis of gender, it's
that's not.
You're missing the point.
It loses something because
it dilutes
it's not accurate to the time.
Yeah. And I also think that what Richard was saying, if we did this whole filter thing about getting rid of certain words and things, you're making your kids so sensitive, and kids these days are already so sensitive. It's
couldn't agree more.
In the hospital by the age of 5 and therapy for who knows what. But
again, I think there's aspects of history that we need to learn, and we need to know, and we need to understand the rights and wrongs of history. And we can't do that if we suddenly change everything that teaches us what historically happened in different time eras. Then what happens to the future knowledge of people? So then we start cutting all that out, and we filter it out, and future generations are going to have no idea. That's not beneficial for society either. We need to understand what are the rights and wrongs of history so that we can become better people in the future.
I'm going for a second do a devil's advocate thing. What about actual society wanting not to have those topics because they don't want to have those conversations?
But then that's what
Because that's what it feels to me. A lot of this,
Only
like
the book then.
editing and kind of like cutting things from books and school curriculums, is because adults, there's very rare an adult that you can find that will sit down and have a hard conversation with you, whether
Yeah.
you are the same age, older or younger. And it's like, I think as a society around the world, this is not just a US problem.
Mhm.
A lot of the adults don't want to have those conversations. And that's when we start losing our culture, our history, our identity.
Mhm.
And it's like
See, I'm
everyone gotta
against
wake up.
I think it's not adults trying to get away from a conversation. I think they're falling to this idea of being canceled if they don't change something. They're being pressured to change because they get a backlash because someone says, "Oh my gosh, I'm offended by this." And then before they know it, there's cancel culture, and the person who takes the fall is the publishing company or whatever. So that's why they're changing it. And to me, that's like the whole sensitivity. That goes back to the whole sensitivity thing again.
Yeah. I feel like that's how it is on one side, but like, see, and we can't get into politics and stuff because last time my whole thing got like, they were like ready to yank me. But Des is living in a state where they are actually not letting certain curriculum be taught because parents don't want their kids to feel bad. So it can go from one side of the extreme to the other. Where one, we're teaching history and it's important for history to be known, and the other is what language is offensive, and when it's offensive, what do we change? Do we footnote? Do we leave it and just put a footnote saying this was written this way, but it's not acceptable, or do we change it and say it originally was something else?
To me, I feel
but also this conversation, like we all being calm, no one is like getting super heated. This is strange. Like how can you think
oh my god,
of,
a
like,
logical
like
conversation
like in the last 3 months, not 1 month, in the last 3 months, have you ever had a calm conversation with an adult with opposite opinions and no one got mad, offended, threatened to like not being your friend, not being your sibling, or being your uncle? Like, this is strange.
This is the thing. I'm really happy with how this conversation is going because we're all friendly, we're all having a civil conversation. I think this is a really good way of discussing it. I mean, the one thing I would add, and then Barrett, you can finally say something. That would be quite nice, wouldn't it? Is we need to remember George Orwell's 1984. I mean, there is a quote that I will read out very quickly. Every record has been destroyed or falsified. Every book rewritten. Every picture has been repainted. Every statue and street building has been renamed. Every date has been altered. And the process is continuing day by day and minute by minute. History is stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. George Orwell, 1984. We need to remember this book was a cautionary tale, not an instruction manual.
Yep.
I've seen that quote so many places, and I'm like, no. Even if we put that up like the posters in 1984, which would be everywhere, people still wouldn't get the hint.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're right.
Barrett, please answer before I like give my.
No, go ahead. No, I was listening on the way here, and so most of at least on this topic, everyone said what I would say, which is I think it's great to use it as a teachable moment. So
I feel like with history, like books that have already been published, I don't think we should be editing without any trace that they've been edited. Like I think there should be a footnote or something. I think in the present, if someone knows that something's going to be offensive, maybe they should think about whether or not they want to put that out there, and also like read your contract, because your publisher could maybe just change it if they're like, we don't want to be associated with something that's offensive. But I also think that if people don't want to self-censor themselves, then they don't need to, except for, when you're engaging in fighting words, which is the one exclusion to the First Amendment, right to free speech. If you're inciting violence, you're not protected under the First Amendment. People seem to forget that. But then you can't control whether or not, like, Amazon or Draft Digital or Ingram Spark or any other like self-publishing website that you use, maybe one day uses an AI, scans through to find certain words that they don't want published on their site. And if that's the case, they're a private company. Like, they have every right to do that. And hopefully
capitalism.
That's capitalism.
And that's it. But I feel like present and forward, you need to be making the choice about whether or not you potentially want to offend people. But I think in the past, we shouldn't be erasing what is now considered offensive, but turn it into teaching moments and be like, this was the historical record, which is so weird to say, like, about Huckleberry Finn or something. But like, so it is historical and it's a record of that time. Although people forget that he wrote it as a satire because he hated what was happening at the time.
I mean, the kind of irony is that they had that incident with Amazon where they were deleting Kindle books by themselves from people's Kindles, and one of the books they were deleting was 1984, and they didn't. That was a bit ironic in a way.
Well, speaking to that, Richard, to your point, I think you're kind of right that it could have been a warning. I also think it can be a manual. I think it can be both. I don't think it has to be mutually exclusive. We can have that debate, but I think it can be both.
1984 could be a manual.
Yeah, sure. I think you people can. Don't you think?
I think it's a manual for people who I don't want to be in power. Unless you're talking about it being an anti-manual, in which case I'd be like, yeah, everything that the
1984, The Handmaid's Tale. I mean, there's so many books that are aging incredibly oddly,
frighteningly
that you wish it wasn't.
Yeah, they're aging frighteningly well. Like, they've aged into reality. I'm like, no, I liked it better when we didn't want this. This wasn't an instruction book. Please. All right. We'll readdress this if things change. Just like we did with the Susan Meachen thing. Wrap that one up. I don't think this one's gonna change. I'm sorry.
I mean they did kind of row back after the kind of, especially when the Queen Consort got involved, they then had to come out and say, we're going to publish the classic collection, which is the unedited text, as well as the new versions, which kind of, in a way, kicks the kind of problem into the long grass for a little bit, because they may say, which version's selling better?
Yeah.
But that is a conversation perhaps for another day. But I think sanity has prevailed in that sense, and that they're not going to totally out of print the old versions, and they're going to keep both going. So, and then people can at least make a choice.
I always when I oddly agree with certain people who are in politics, I always side-eye myself. But I slightly agree with the Queen Consort, which is, I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, I'm gonna
I don't know if a politician. I think of it as, if a politician agrees with me, I feel good. If I agree with a politician, I'm like,
I'm like, let me double check this really quick. Make sure that so we have a couple more topics. I don't know that we will get to both of them. Do we want to try and do both of them? Richard, how are you doing? Are you hanging in there?
Oh, just go for it. I'm here now.
All right. All right.
Say quickly,
well, not permanently. Don't get comfortable.
All right.
Charliee was going to say something.
Oh, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say, keep whatever edition you have of whatever right now, so that you can sell it for a lot.
Buy it in paperback. Oh, I've got a book out, by the way.
All right. So the topic of authors on social media has on again and off again continually been a thing, because especially I feel like Authortube and Booktube, I would say, has gone through this back in the early 2010s-ish, where they were feeling out where they needed to be as far as reader spaces, author spaces. And now with TikTok, the uptick of TikTok, it's like happening again, only on an exponential level. And a lot of book reviewers are feeling like their spaces are being invaded. And TradPub, a lot of people have said that it feels like traditional publishing is kind of pushing their authors to be on social media. Because I feel like it's a little different for indie authors and traditionally published authors. Because indie authors, we're on social media because this is
You need
this
the
is the bread and
exposure.
butter. This is how it's going. This is how you're going to make it happen. And people do it to different levels. There are some indie authors, they have entire groups with fan bases of thousands and thousands where they are interacting constantly. Some of them even getting feedback from their readers. And so there's a reader expectation within these groups that maybe readers shouldn't have outside of these groups, that if I don't like something, I can make the author change it or complain to the author, or maybe I love something so much no one can complain about the author that I love, or we're just, the fandom's going to go and jump all over them. So it's become a tangled web that we have woven. I think that TradPub just sees it as another marketing. Absolutely.
Mhm.
And a lot of people have been saying how much less and less and less marketing TradPub is doing specifically for smaller published authors than they used to. I can speak to others. Go ahead. What are some of your thoughts on some of the things that you've been seeing with traditionally published authors feeling like they have to be on social media and in these spaces?
I mean,
where
I'm sure there's some traditionally published authors we wish weren't on social media, not to name any names.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw a cat show TikTok because she got asked about social media a lot, and she explained that it is true that some publishing companies are even putting on the contract that the author has to have some type of social media. Some publishers are being more pushy and asking for specific social medias, but it's still not a rule within the trap pop industry, because they still have a marketing department, they still have a sales department, they still have a publicist. Are they stretching their publicists to the never end? Yes, but what can we
Don't hire me as your publicist.
There's kind of an unspoken rule though, like even if it's not an official rule, it's like authors understand that like if they're not on social media, like even ones who sign with traditional, that they understand that like, oh, that's going to be less exposure, which means like I might not sell as many books, I might not earn out my advance, which means I'm not going to see royalties and all that, and
or
so,
get another contract maybe, or make a lot less. You know?
Yeah. So like even if a publisher doesn't write it into the contract, which I don't, because that's, like, did I ask one of my authors to, maybe grab their handle on a platform just so like in case they do want to be active on there, it's theirs and we don't have to deal with, you don't have brand uniformity across things. Yes. But then when stuff happened with the Bird app and two of the authors were like, we're out of here. I'm like, fine. Like, I'm not going to force you to stay on a platform that you are morally against or anything.
Right. Did you ask them to keep that name just so that nobody else can grab it from them?
So one kept theirs and then another just like deleted it altogether before. I thought they were just going to deactivate, and it turns out that they deleted everything. And I was like, okay, well, I probably would have advised to keep the username, but like it happened.
Would they mind if you grabbed it just to have it so that nobody else can come in and pretend like they're like, would you do that? Because that would make me a little nervous. That's the only thing. It would make me nervous that someone could come in and then like be posting under that
and
name
take
and
it.
I'd be like,
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
here
and post for as you, and you have absolutely no relation to that person.
Yeah.
I wanted to like point out. I mean, I don't know every single big name, but I follow some big names since they started, and they run their social medias before they got big. Like I
Yeah.
know people are gonna say Sarah J. Maas. She did run her social medias before she got big. Once she got really big, and a lot of like fan page socials started to happening, and they started to make social medias for like their specific series, things like that. That's when she probably handed her
but
social
like
medias
Victoria
to
Aveyard does her own stuff, and like I love her stuff. And Cat, like, I mean, to me, Cat Show is big, but like, you know, in huge numbers, probably not. And then also you have, okay, you'll notice the traditional big names, the super prolific ones, are non-social media. You like the ones that are super big in a lot of cases are super big because they've been publishing for years, and therefore they already have the brand name recognition of, I don't need to be on social media. Someone's going to see like my publisher announce that there's a new book for me, and like that's it. Or they're going to see my book in an airport bookstore, and I'm set. So like that's not really what we should be looking at.
Yeah, like for example, James Patterson doesn't have to worry. He's gonna have an entire wall of shelves for him in any bookstore. So
Mostly books he didn't even write. Oh,
That makes some people so mad.
See, I think I think when you want to publish, you should know the market and know what type of audience and the audience in general that you're publishing to and how the market works. And I think, as was said, social media is one of the best ways to do that. And despite all the negativity sometimes surrounding traditional publishing, they do want you to be published, and they do want you to have the sales. So I don't think it's wrong for them to request you to have social media. And I think if you're against that, then you just have to say, put your foot down and be like, no, and find a new publisher that allows you not to have that. But I don't think it's anything to make a huge deal of, especially in this day and age. And one other
the only
thing.
line I would draw on that is if someone said, Richard, you have to be on TikTok, I'd be like, bye-bye.
No, then you have to hire someone.
Yeah.
Hire someone and be like, you can be my
TikTok
and then
story.
the author would say, with what money? Because I was planning to put my advance, which also needs to be, I also have to pay taxes on, towards being able to live.
Yeah. There's something else that I wanted to say, but I totally lost track of
That's
it.
okay. If you remember, just go ahead and do the little wave so we can come back to it.
Drug.
What? I was just going to say real quick, what I will say is when it comes to traditional publishing, at least, it's a matter of like looking how much, because things have changed and now we rely so much, business period relies on social media. Are they heavily now putting way more on the author than they used to? Whereas before, you know, there was a certain level of marketing that is promised to you from the publisher, the traditional publishing company. It was always known that you still had to do partially your own. But now, where is that balance? Like, is it now too much placed on the author because social media has become the thing? So traditional has kind of backed off on doing their part? Or, you know, are they matching up what they always used to do and what they promised?
I think so. Well, first of all, a lot of publishing contracts will allocate a certain percentage of the advance towards marketing, and any good agent will like include that and make sure that's included. I don't like, yes, do I think that some publishers are absolutely offloading onto their authors just because like they don't want to spend money? probably like their marketing teams are underpaid. Like, I'm just going to say that. I had marketing professors in my grad school program. And they're like, we work our butts off, and we are like, it sounds crazy, but we're often given a shoestring budget for like a new book because like they're not really investing in the new book. And I was like, so like the authors in the indie space aren't wrong, but like they're discounting the fact that people are working really hard at their jobs. But I also think that some of it is because younger generations don't like social media, where it's like you can tell it's a brand, which is why like even bigger brands will have ads, and then it's like you don't know until halfway through the ad that it's an advertisement for blank brand, because it's like starts out as like, oh, it's about this like same-sex couple, which I'm like, great for representation. What the hell are you trying to sell me? Because I'd like to skip the ad if I don't care about it, rather than spending like 30 seconds trying to be like, do I care about this? I don't know what's happening.
They got you. They just need you to watch for a few seconds.
Yeah. So like, I think they're trying to cater to the fact that they know that marketing needs to be more personal, because I think they know that they can't get away with being like, oh, here's just like from the publisher and we'll sell the book, because we'll be like, you're just like crying for attention in the middle of the internet void, and like I'd rather see the author talking about their own book and maybe I'll care then.
Exactly. I think those kind of social medias where it's obviously not the actual person writing the tweets. You get this also with politicians, if I'm allowed to say politicians, where it's obviously their team writing the tweets or whatever, and you just think this is not authentic. I don't care. It's just guff. Forget about it. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, isn't it? Because we don't want authors spending all their time on Twitter.
Exactly. At the same time, they have. I mean, people say things all the time that others get offended by, but there's a reason why there are so many people sometimes behind those social media accounts. It's because they're trying to figure out how they can get their point across with offending the least amount of people or offending the right amount of people or whatever it is.
Whatever's going to get them more numbers.
Right. And that's one thing that if you have a little social media account, it's nice to have, because regardless of who you are, you're going to, like, if you offend someone, you're going to be infamous. You can add the "in" to your name. And so it's like, well, it's dangerous sometimes for those higher, big, trad, famous, published authors to have their own social media account, because they have everyone coming in to their DMs. Then they have all the trolls and things in their comments. And then they also have to be careful of every little thing they post. Like, I don't know, someone could be offended that they had cereal for breakfast. So.
We do live in that kind of society where it's what cereal you had is like a mold.
Do you put
oh my God, you're eating diabetes in a bowl. Didn't you know that the founder of this like created Cheerios for like a super whack reason? And like, I can't believe you're still eating Cheerios.
If you eat Frosties, that means you think this is Rice Krispies.
I do think here they overestimate how much social media affects it. No, every professor I had in my master's in publishing program knows that it's a crapshoot. They know that you can optimize things for like the best result that you can hope for, but there's no guarantee. What happens, the reason though everyone champions TikTok is because publishers realize that like with Bookstagram and BookTube, but now TikTok's the hot platform. Hey, if we send our books to these influencers on this app and it's going to be seen like 1 million times, even if the people buy the book a small percentage of the time, the higher the views are, that percentage will mean a bigger number. So what they're not paying for social media ads, which is often like throwing spaghetti at a wall and hoping it sticks. What they're really doing is building basically brand ambassador relationships with people on social media platforms who have audiences that trust them to be like, oh, this is a book recommendation, and they'll do that. So they're not underestimating how much social media affects sales, but they are not putting enough money behind things that people can see a direct result from, because they could also send a book to a book talker And if the book talker doesn't like it, maybe you have it in the contract that like you don't share it, which if I was the book talker, I'd be like, that seems shady. Like I would want to be able to share my honest opinion about this book. It still is good, if that makes sense. Like, yeah.
So and it's great that I'm going after Zara, because this is something, and this is why it affects so much to authors. If you have not studied marketing or advertising, it's very hard for you to use social media to market yourself, because you don't you think using social media, which is a tool for a marketing strategy, like what Sarah explained, is a strategy that a lot of trap pop and some very smart indie authors use, creating relationships, creating network with other like adjacent peers to promote their books through the social media tool. Like this is why it's not like they are overshooting or they're like putting everything on a social media. They're using the hottest tool at the moment. And this happened when Booktube was a thing, and everyone was either on a TBR or doing a review. And this is why now you have the label that this is a pay promotion video. That's why it happened, because a lot of companies in Booktube, in makeup, starting to do these things. This is already a strategy in marketing. They did with Instagram and Bookstagram. Like, how many same accounts we all follow, which have the same similar lay, like pretty book lays. This was because Instagram at the time was the hot tool, the hot social media, and it's the same with TikTok. It's just the tool that is, for the amount of effort everyone is putting, is the one that gets the most revenue. Because if you follow any very transparent indie author, like, people are like, I know first time debut indie authors who in less than 6 months are already over 10K in on sales. And the only thing they use is TikTok as their marketing tool. But they have a marketing strategy. Like, they're very specific with what they do. So it's just like, don't shoot the tool. Like, if you don't like it, that's okay. Just find what you like and create a very good strategy. That's a thing that TrapUp still gives authors. Like, even if they are not doing most of the marketing for you, you still can reach out to the marketing department and talk to your publicist and be like, okay, what's going to be the strategy? Like, if I know what's going to be the plan, then maybe I can come up with something on my spare time.
Yeah. And the thing is, if TikTok didn't work, there wouldn't be such a push to do it. But they saw the increase in sales of older books that Booktube had already gone through these books. They saw an uptick when Booktube, the popular books that Booktube was talking about. And then when TikTok became the new hot thing, and these TikTokers kind of the Booktubers will say that BookTok kind of was recycling their stuff. But when it went out on TikTok, it just was even bigger, and they notice these sales. They notice it. And for no effort, it's a few seconds. They're showing their cute little book, doing a little dance or whatever they're doing, and sales are picking up. And they've got thousands and thousands of followers. And if they've got 100,000 followers and only 10% buy the book, it's worth it to them. It's worth it,
right? And I think the big downside is the third part of this question or topic, which is the reviewer spaces. But I think, even if someone gives you a negative review on your book, you open that space up to all those followers that are now seeing that negative review, and then they decide essentially whether or not they want to hop on the bandwagon or pick it up just in case. And even if they pick it up, you still get that money.
Yeah. I
So
was watching one of the booktubers group were talking about specifically the reviewer space part of authors being on social media, and they said sometimes when they bash a book and just really like throw it under the bus, it ticks up sales because then everybody wants to either hate read it or see what the hype was or disagree with them. So it does, it's not always harmful to get this to have you know
the biggest harm it poses is on the actual author, because it lowers morale and it makes you feel very shitty.
Yeah, and it's like
But
don't read the reviews. If you
with the reviewer space, this is something I kind of like make a correlation with languages. If I'm talking with someone on a language, if A and B are talking in a language that C doesn't understand and C is not in the conversation, just chill. Like, you don't have to start picking forks and things like that to be like, I don't understand. I'm like, well, you're not even in the conversation. And reviewer space are a conversation between the reader, the reviewer, and their community of readers. Just because they're reviewing your book, that doesn't mean that's your community, nor those are your readers. So that's not a space for you to come in and start calling your fork and your knife and be like, it's not your space. You did not curate it. And the people are there for the reviewer because they have created kind of like a relationship and a trust in their taste. Has nothing to do with you as an author. So just click the X, chill out, leave. It's not your community to.
Yes.
Right. And I think
go find your author friends. Go find your author friends.
Exactly.
And commiserate with them.
If you want to have a community with your readers, find like Facebook group, Discord, Slack, whatever website you want to use, and create that with them, with your readers, people who want to be in your space and talking to you. Curate that. Just don't jump into other communities.
Right, and I think some topics, depending on what the review is, obviously should be addressed. But in the case where they're like small things that don't necessarily need to be addressed, it's that type of balance of whether or not you can self-regulate yourself to know when it's time to step away and when it's time to contribute to a toxic environment.
Yeah. And the book reviewers actually had some good advice on ways that you can address things that are wrong. If someone gives a wrong review and is putting out inaccurate stuff about you, to say do not at the person, do not at the reviewer at all. Just go onto your social media platform and say that it has been mentioned that X, Y, and Z is in my book, X, Y, and Z is not in my book, or X, Y, and Z that has been mentioned. If anyone's concerned, this is mentioned in this context. Like, I think one of them, what they talked about, someone gave some medical advice in the book, and it was incorrect medical advice, and a reviewer just went off on them and just was trying to bash the book because of it. But in the book, the person gives the medical advice and the next person immediately says that won't work.
Yeah.
So it was immediately corrected, like the next line. So the author did not at the person. They just went on and said, this is the actual context of what this is. It was perfectly fine. They never added the person, were able to fix any misunderstandings, and the book went on to do well. So there's ways to do it. If you do find out that something is being misrepresented, the way to do it is never to jump into the community and start arguing with the people. Do not argue with the reviewers. Do not argue with their fans, because they see you now and you can't take it back. Nope. You are forever on the list.
That's
It's like
gonna
arguing with a
hurt you
professor.
I'll be
tremendously.
on the list
It's
of
like,
authors.
it's like arguing with a professor when they receive your essay and they're like, I don't like that. And you're like, yeah, but look, can you just continue reading and then you'll like it a little better? And then before you know it, it's like, well, I should
Also,
do it.
it's not about whether or not you like my argument. It's about whether my argument is well
That's
done.
correct.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think if you're arguing with someone who's written a negative review, you're wasting time because they've already read the book and they didn't like it. You're not going to convince them otherwise. You need to move on to other people who aren't wrong about your book.
Right.
and like was said earlier, have a space where you can have your author friends who you can have a good old bitch about. Oh, I had this real crappy review.
Group chat.
You can vent about it. Group chat. I mean, that's all I text you about, Barrett, isn't it? About
Group chats are lit.
Our friends, text your friends. Like, just keep that private. Don't make
This
that
person's
public.
written a review, and I'm so.
Esther's keeping all your receipts anyway, so don't piss her off.
Right.
And
Friend and I
the
were
only
talking
thing-
about this, and I actually said to them, I said, this kind of reminds me of, like, you know how when you have a friend who's like super engaged on social media within a couple, and then they break up, and then they're like super happy about how single they are, and there's lots of talking about that. It feels like that. Like when authors go and do that, it doesn't feel authentic. It feels like you're doing some things you shouldn't be doing, and with people you shouldn't be doing it with, and spend a little time with yourself, and then your friends, and let them talk you through this time of your life, and then come back with your awesome coupled, single, whatever it's going to be, self.
Like when I published my first book and I got some good reviews, like I would thank people, and I now realize like that's awkward. Like I like it when, if back when I was more active on Twitter, if I would tweet like, oh my God, read blank by author, and I would tag them because it was a positive thing. I never like share a negative thing online, but I'll like in text or like talking to someone, I'll say like, oh, I didn't really like this book or whatever. And they would like it. They would favorite the tweet and reply and say like, oh my God, thank you so much. Like I'm happy to see the author respond to me, but I know that's not the normal response. So I stopped doing that. And I like, for my first book, I read some of the negative reviews just because I was curious. And like, I didn't respond. And, you know, like some of them were valid and they just decided that was like worth very low stars to them. Whereas if I had read that in a book, I'd maybe be like, like 4 stars, like instead of 1. But that's my personal opinion. And then there was just one person who gave it a 1 star because they had requested my book, which was very clearly marked as paranormal romance, and then proceeded in the review to hate on everything that makes a book a paranormal romance. And I was just like, you didn't even pay for this book. You got it through NetGalley. Like, what are you doing?
That sounds like the
worst.
reviews that you get online when you search up a certain store. It's like you try and find all the reviews for a store, and it's like, I came here expecting pickle barrow, but now but instead it's an indigo, so 1 star or something like that.
The worst ones are the Amazon ones where you're like looking for the rating on the book, and Amazon rates, I'm giving this a 1 because my book came, it was vent.
Yeah,
That's not a review of the actual
My
content, it's a
book
review of the
took
actual
1
book.
week to come instead of 2 days.
right.
I know. I'm like,
It's
you
reviewing
guys have a
Amazon,
review-
not the
like
book.
it's not a physical item. It's not like, oh, this came broken. But like when you're reviewing a book online, you should be reviewing the content of the book and nothing else. Please and thank you.
Yeah.
Saying that,
Right.
That's why don't pay attention to the Amazon ratings. The Amazon ratings on the book could literally be anything.
following on from Zara's point, though, if I buy a paperback and I don't like the cover finish or the trim size or anything like that, surely I can review it because I'm reviewing a physical product. I mean, I wouldn't do that because I'm not that petty.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Aren't
Like
you,
I'm
though?
just saying, like, don't be.
Well,
petty.
I mean, Barrett, I am a
Or
petty man, but I'm not that. I have limits. Even
like you can
evil has
comment on
standards.
it in your review, but I wouldn't
Yeah.
like the physical condition of the book. I don't think should affect the star rating.
I mean, it'll be funny if it comes with like a sort of,
Agreed.
a bent corner. That's Amazon's fault, really, or
Exactly.
whoever shipped it.
Yeah.
So you're reviewing Amazon's crappy delivery or whatever.
Yeah, because I was watching something and they were like, well, it's got a 3 on Amazon, but a 4 on Goodreads. And I'm like, some of those Amazon ones might be shipping problems.
Yeah, go
Well,
with
and
good.
Goodreads, people will rate a book that they haven't read to express how interested they are in reading the book.
Right.
Not just,
What?
I've read the book. So someone who's like super excited for a book will like rate a book 5 stars. I'm like, or I don't like, I'll read it, but like, I don't really care. So they'll rate it 1 star. I'm like, can we go back to the days when a star rating on Goodreads meant that you had at least read the book?
Right? Actually,
Yeah.
I was so excited for a sequel to one of the books I was reading, and I saw all the ratings, and I was like, okay, it's all published. I can start reading it. And then I finished the first 2 books, and I was like, I went to the reviews because, they had so many reviews to find where the book had been published, and it hadn't been published. It hadn't been the author hadn't even started writing it. And I was like, damn.
Wow.
Bad.
Also, if you think about it, a 1-star review, when they've actually bothered to write a review, by the way, not just a 1-star they put, don't put anything on, it's like, well, piss off then. If they've written a 1-star review and actually written something, that means they cared enough about disliking your book to the point where they actually bothered to write. But I do think 1-star reviews, they should force you to write at least some kind of justification, even if it is rubbish. Not just 1 star.
Yeah, like a certain number of characters. Like, we're not checking that it's a sentence that makes any sense, but like...
It needs to be at least 240 characters.
Yeah, and they can't all be like the pound sign. Like, there needs to be some...
Or as long as they're not from postmen that I've annoyed on Twitter.
Oh my gosh, Richard.
That goes into the social media thing, isn't it? Don't start fights with people.
Well, I actually should have brought that to Authortubers reacting. But like, did y'all hear about Richard's tweet that he had to private his account because the postal workers in the UK started like downvoting his book on Amazon?
And they did.
True story.
I mean, what I will
still
say
laugh
on
about
that episode is I learned a lot from that.
Hopefully you don't have to wait more. Maybe you should pay for premium shipping now, so you can say that you do value them.
See, this review would have my
that's horrible.
Ex would have like read that and been like, I'm gonna read the book. I'm
Yeah,
gonna say that.
Except for clowns.
I don't like clowns.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
No, my ex is
I
a
will be like
fan, and he loves like good horror and bad horror and like anything in between. You just need to know to expect if it's supposed to be like a campy thing.
I'll be like, nope, it has clowns. It's not for me. Thank you for leaving that review in.
Oh, I mean, for me, I'm like, it's horror. It's not for me, but I'll read Laura Nettles because I'm just too curious.
Yeah, embracing myself for Laura's. But
hers
yeah,
is also
I told Laura, I will buy your books. I'm just not gonna read them.
I'll display them proudly on the bookshelf.
I'm like,
I'm gonna buy your books
like,
and not read them. You're welcome.
Yeah.
But I did not.
I'm literally just throwing money at you at this point.
I forgot to link the Booktubers chat that they had yesterday, but I think it's good for anyone who's an author, especially an Authortuber, who might be floating around in dual spaces as I do. Like whenever I'm in a booktube space, I never mention that I'm a writer. I don't hide that I'm a writer, but I just don't talk about things that I'm writing, if that makes sense. It's not what I'm there for. I'm there to find out what books they're reading, to see if there's anything I'm interested in reading, literally. But they gave some really good advice on things that you can do if you can't handle reading reviews. And one of them was that get someone else that you trust to read the reviews for you, curate a list of things that were addressed, because we want to improve as writers. And a lot of people feel like reviews will help them improve. And, there's a lot of stuff that should have been pre-done through the editing process, and beta readers and ARC readers and all of that stuff should have already been done. But that feedback could be invaluable for your next book. Get someone else to go and curate a list for you of things that from most commented on to least, and see if it will help you improve. But if you can't handle the heat, you don't have to go there.
If you can't handle the heat, don't walk into the kitchen.
Yeah, I'm thinking that.
I was thinking of just don't read the reviews. I don't know why. Maybe I was naive.
Oh, I love reading reviews, though.
Maybe I hoped my agent or somebody would read them and then be like, here's the notes you should know. But otherwise, I don't see the point of me reading them. And I don't know that would be good for my mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine are
Even if they were
bad.
good, you know what I mean. Even if what if they were good, then I think I'm like the best thing ever, and I
Your
like
publisher's marketing team will have set up like what do they call it? Like Google listening or something, or social listening.
Google
That's what
Alerts.
it is, where they like set up alerts for keywords or whatever, and they compile it into a report regarding your book. So they'll be like, oh, these phrases come up a lot in reviews from like Goodreads regarding this book.
Interesting.
A lot of the terms like come up here from Amazon or like things like that, and then they'll
It's interesting.
obviously take the positive ones and use it to shape their marketing plan. But you know,
Yeah.
if you're really curious,
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah,
I have,
people
like
love
personal
this. I can use that for marketing. When people really love something, then you can like, let's lean into this.
right.
Mhm.
Also, in my personal opinion, I don't think there is any good way to answer a negative review
Mm.
because
there
it,
is
Oh, yeah.
There isn't. There isn't.
No.
There isn't.
don't respond.
Don't respond.
No.
Let it go.
Again,
Yeah.
it's like the
Let it
breakup
go.
thing, and it's like your ex is now in a relationship, and you're liking the photo. Why?
Oh,
Why are you there?
That just
You're
made
not-
me
that's not the-
cringe
that's
so
not the
badly.
place.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know.
Okay.
no, like someone.
Move
Or
on.
you mean to scroll and you accidentally hit.
Oh,
the
you
heart
like
button.
it,
You're like,
and then right. Oh,
you
the
can't
worst.
undo it. It's like, oh
Worst.
my gosh, if I
Yeah.
undo
They
it,
already
that's
got the
even worse.
notification.
I know.
Yeah, it's
They
already
see
there.
that you good, and then
It's already there. Yep.
Let's move on to our last topic really quick. AI. It's now on Notion. It's on Canva. Magazine submissions are trying to reject it. It's coming for your writers that are trying to see, and everybody's like, it's not going to hurt us writers. Well, now these AI, I can curate a little, punch in some numbers and some words, and have a whole article. They are trying to submit them in for magazine submissions and a manga, or was it a manga, or was it a comic book? One of the two. A graphic novel was submitted.
Yeah.
Graphic novel was submitted to copyright, and thankfully, copyright said no.
That made me
So-
happy.
And that made me so happy too. I was like, I wanted to high five the copywriting, because
Yeah, I'm
how
curious
do you
about the AI
copyright
on
something
Notion
that was
too. I don't
stolen?
get it.
I guess people use Notion in different ways. Some use
Yeah.
it to write papers for them, and others use it to sort out their daily lives.
Oh,
Yeah.
And some
Oh.
people don't know how to sort out their daily lives, so AI has to do it for them.
I
That
was
would
gonna say I don't even know how to use Notion. It took me
I
like
use
teaching
it to run
twice,
my
and I got so
company.
bored. I was like, this is not for me. Not because of her, just because I didn't understand how to use it. I was like, I don't know how I'll use that, girl. And
No, I feel you.
Barrett,
I use Notion, and I was
Just
like,
with
why
Excel,
not
Barrett.
box?
it's like I don't get it.
It
Yeah,
is Pandora's box.
well, as
Yeah.
a freelance writer, I will say now Fiverr.com has
Fiverr
a
too.
new section that is AI services.
I
No.
saw
Oh,
that
yes.
when I was looking for
Who gets that money? Like
Yeah.
the
Fiverr?
person who inputs
The
the,
person
thing
who-
into
The
the
person who
AI.
just uses
person
the
who's-
AI
Yeah.
to do
Oh.
work that's not
Theirs. And I
Yeah.
think that the AI sites have said that they aren't going to
No.
be, they're not telling you people to
Just
use this
Eva.
stuff for real sale.
Go up to.
Wow. I saw
I think what's coming next is they're going to use
I
AI
use
to
that.
edit old books.
I wouldn't be
I am so
surprised.
bad, but like I've seen so many problems with Grammarly, and I don't really use
I use
ProWriting
ProWriting
Aid
Aid, so I
to
don't know
check
about
in
that.
on it. But every editing program that I've ever seen, except for like if I
Oh.
type something wrong, sometimes it is right. But with the grammar, I'm like, no, the rules that my grandma taught me a decade ago are more correct than what you are currently trying to suggest.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised
I mean,
by this because for every language there is a language writing tool that grades you and tells you all the rules and explains them for you. And then I also Grammarly gives the stats, which I mean, why do you need stats for writing? I guess more for them than for you, unless you like looking at your writing stats.
I'll get emails from Grammarly and I'll be like, wow, you have a hefty vocabulary. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I typed the like 80 times while writing emails this week. Like, I don't know what vocabulary you think you're seeing it. Like, yes, I have a good vocabulary, which I'm very proud of. but I don't use it all the time in my writing. So what are you talking about?
Yeah. What
I,
was
I use per writing aid, but they haven't like said anything about like if they are going to use what is input. And also you can delete whatever you put on pro writing aid. So as long as you don't leave it there, they just gonna have your stat of how if you use or overuse commas or you forget to use commas, if you use a lot of adverbs, adjective, passive voice, things like that. That doesn't tell AI a lot. Like AI actually needs to have the text to
Tells you the
regurgitate infinitely.
Well, I mean, you can delete your text from Grammarly too, can't
I
you?
do
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
They
I
do
don't
do
write
have
it.
pro
I
writing
don't
aid,
you know what I mean?
I
They've
have
got
the
it.
plugins. So like I'll be in Scrivener and
Oh,
the plugin will be
okay.
like, oh, we're checking. And
I-
I'm like, you're doing it wrong though. So I'd like to turn
Got
this
it.
Yeah,
Okay, no, I just
I
copied.
don't have any other plugins. I don't plug it
Yeah.
in anywhere. I'm like, cause that is just so annoying for me. Cause I write both in Spanish and English, and it's like I'm writing in Spanish, and it's not per writing rate because I don't have any like I only use the desktop edit option. I don't have it linked anywhere, and the only account that I have the free version for Grammarly, it kind of like goes crazy when I start writing in Spanish. Like this language is not made for you. Like go
Hey.
and be annoying somewhere else. You
But it's
actually
What I
have
would-
no idea what I'm doing.
If
Yeah.
anything, it's just really
Okay, Des has to go.
Oh.
Do you need an outro when
Oh,
you go?
yes.
Is it no?
Yes. And
Yeah.
I will just say, just to Eva's comment about artists who paint canvases have competed printables for years. They still do their art. They still make their living. The thing is, when you think of freelancing now, the freelancing space is already hard enough to succeed and have a good living, for income. But this AI now is doing jobs that these artists would do, and they're charging really cheap to do some intricate art for these people using AI. And so I don't
They're
know.
losing income. They're losing the opportunity for income.
It's so I see that it may actually impact more than
Yeah.
we realize.
Yeah,
than
and not
what
only
we
are
have.
not only are they losing the income, but they're losing income that they, in some small way or large way, depending on the artist, they contributed to this AI without their consent.
Yeah.
The AI just took artists' work from all over the internet, scraped the internet for artists' work, and it's using it to now take away their jobs.
Yeah.
And Clarksworld, and this one's for writing, Clarksworld had to stop taking submissions to their magazine because people were submitting AI generated articles and submissions, and it's just like they didn't ask for that. And then lying, and Clarksworld even says we don't want AI work, and people were doing it anyway. And it's getting harder and harder to detect. It's getting harder and harder to detect because it's getting smarter and better.
I saw a tweet from an agent who was like, I got my first AI generated query. Do I yeet myself into the void now, or do I wait like a little bit longer? And
I know.
I saw that and I'm like, how dumb or unknown of the publishing industry can you be to
But like
AI
now I'm
query?
nervous. When I eventually reopen to submissions, which who knows when that'll be, I'm gonna have to run everything through an AI checker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really sad.
And
that people
and
are so lazy that they do things.
Liz, you better jump into your outro if you're going to do it.
All right. I'm going to head out. I'm so sorry. Thank you guys so much. It was a great evening, fun conversation. Again, I'm at Coffee Reading Writing on YouTube. I'm Desiree M. Ortega on social media. And I loved being here tonight. Thank you guys so much. Have a great evening. Bye.
Love you, friends.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah. And then Eva says, plot twist that AI checkers farm data for AI. I wouldn't be surprised.
Right? I know. Can you imagine?
It's just getting to the point where even with writers, it's seeping into all of these places. And even when people aren't asking for it, it's happening.
Right.
it started out, everybody kind of thought it was funny, I guess, when an AI generated piece of art won at a state fair, and we were like, oh well, and the artists were upset, and now it's going to happen with writers and writing, and it's all over the place, and
that would have been cool at like a technology or a science realm. Like, oh, good on you for making AI that is capable of doing that. Don't do that. You're hurting the real life artists.
Yeah. And I just feel like if you're going to do it, one, I feel like I don't want to mess with it anymore until the artists who have put up their lawsuits, until it's settled, so that we can see, where's the law going to fall on this? Is there going to be any type of compensation, or at least new rule settings for this kind of thing? Because it just does seem incredibly unfair, especially when you can type in a modern day artist and say, give me something in the likings of XYZ artist. And these artists are like, look at this. They copied my work. And you can do that. So until that's settled, I'm not comfortable with it. Do I think it could be a good tool? Yeah, any AI could always be a good tool, just, but
yeah,
we've gone from here to here so quickly. It's like everybody's just kind of like, wait, what? Now it's doing this job. Now it's doing that job. People are actively losing jobs because people who needed freelancers to write little articles for them aren't using them anymore because they're using ChatGPT. That's someone's jobs. Those are real jobs that, these freelancers aren't going to be getting money for. And I think at first people thought, well, it's going to make my life easier. No, it's going to make life easier for the person that was going to hire you, because now they're not even going to have to hire you. They're going to save that money.
Eva's asking some thought-provoking questions. Is it unfair if the access is open to you too? Good question.
Give us the number, the timestamp.
9:05.
9:05.
Yeah.
And then the next one at 9:05 too is a good one. Like, couldn't we just publish and get rich if that's the way it'll be?
That's what some of the videos that I've seen is people are like, this is how you get rich using AI, while everybody else falls behind complaining about it. And and they've got like hundreds of thousands of views from people who do want to use it to try to make money quick. Like probably like this guy who tried to get that graphic novel copywritten.
Yeah.
He's like, ooh, here's a way I can do it real quick and try to make some money off of this thing.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I am someone who's like up for, like, I'm very for, and I'm like, I enjoy writing, but I wouldn't go through all of this if I don't intend to reap money out of it. But also, writing for me, and I will say for a lot of writers, writing in and of itself, it's therapeutic and kind of like a release and kind of like a hobby. Pretty decent, low, you don't have to spend a lot to write, so it will take the fun out of it. It might make me money, or it might just ruin my name, because AI could be giving me trash books, and readers might be saying, don't read this because this is just trash. This is just computer trash. And then I will have to start all over again if I want to keep writing. I just, I don't buy with it. Just like, no.
I think the thing about, like, it's not like these freelancing sites are paying well. It's about the use of AI putting people out of work. It's not about whether or not that work was being fairly compensated before. Like, that is a different conversation, but the AI is robbing people of being compensated at all, if that makes sense. And, like, obviously a 2,000 word article is different than a novel or, a painting or, and those require different amounts of work and effort and labor and how you price those hours of labor and things like that.
Mhm.
And yes, a lot of it is under like the wage of like this is what the work was actually worth and things like that. But
yeah, but if you were
someone
doing
can get AI to do it for 2 seconds and therefore not have to pay someone at all, then that person's not getting paid what they could have gotten paid.
yeah,
Even
and
if
if
it's
you're
illegal.
if you're counting on your freelance jobs to pay half your bills, because you just do so many every day, and it's just your thing, and now half your work is gone, that's detrimental. And some people might say, oh well, big deal, technology, roll with it. But but now this is someone who's going to have to find another way to make a living.
Also, when artists who feed the AI stop making art, and then everything that AI puts out is the same thing, and there's no difference between anyone that does AI, like we're gonna end up in a standstill because
the only
nothing new is
problem
gonna
with
come
that
out.
the only problem with that is because they're sourcing the AI is sourcing from anywhere. If someone makes a book cover and the book cover is art, if it goes up online, the AI can scrape that too. So that would mean that no art that you create, a picture of it, because they took pictures, whatever, any images that were online, they just took them. So that means you could never have your art put online in any way, shape, or form.
The problem with AI now is that people aren't consenting to it. I saw an audiobook. Like I saw an audiobook narrator saying that Spotify, which bought Findaway Voices, which is like the main competition against ACX, which is how a lot of self-published authors make their audiobooks, was taking audiobook narrator voices for AI learning without their consent and selling that information to Apple Books for some reason. So like if everyone could opt in to participate in AI, then that would be like, okay, it's not an unethical thing because then these people have like aren't being ripped off because they said that they could be in it. And it makes sense that like, oh, if you can get something for free and you can't afford it otherwise, fine. But by using AI that is ripping people off who didn't consent to participating in it, that's the problem. Like obviously, if someone like has put a book on 99 cents, like I'm not going to wait for it to become a lot more expensive before I buy it. But if I found out that book was pirated and it's free, but obviously the author didn't consent, I'm not going to do the free thing just because it's more convenient to me.
Yeah. I don't know if Eva knows what
Let's real quick
they did.
Richard,
I think that we should maybe
give Richard time to outro because it's like 2 a.m. So he's going to
yeah.
It is.
So sorry, Richard.
Thank you.
No, it's fine. This has been lots of fun. This has been a great conversation. But yeah, it is 2:15 in the morning, and I'm getting on a bit. I need my beauty sleep.
It gives me great pleasure to say you're fired.
I'm fired. Oh.
I'm so sorry. I thought of a certain reality TV show starring a certain person.
Oh, I know. I know.
Yeah.
Richard,
I think that's what Barrett was getting at.
A little taste. Yeah. No, I was glad to see you in my place while I was late at work. But thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Richard.
This was fun. If anyone wants to buy my new book, do that.
Price war.
But I will see you lovely people next time.
Bye, Richard.
Bye. Have a good sleep.
Bye.
Yes. But I just wanted to say really quick what the Midjourney and some of the other ones were doing was they took the images, whether they were copywritten or not, they just scraped the internet for any kind of images, and that's how they made the AI. That's how they taught their AI. They didn't ask anybody permission. They didn't care if it was copywritten. They didn't care if it was private pictures. They didn't ask. Some of them were medical pictures that people had no idea were even available.
I would not be okay with that.
Yeah.
Right? Morgan could attest to this. How would you feel if our colonoscopies popped up on AI?
I feel like that
How about that?
violates HIPAA laws somehow.
What? Oh, I don't
the medical people didn't share them outside of they shared them with other medical people. I don't know how the AI got it, but the AI just had access to scrape
Wow.
images from the internet.
That's
So and there we
And
are,
use
and that's
Or not
why
to learn, but to use them.
That's true, Eva.
to use them. So there are artists who have a lawsuit in California because they're saying that their permission wasn't given. Their work is copywritten; it's theirs. They weren't asked to share it. They didn't want to share it. And some of the artists, it's obvious that it's theirs because you can ask the AI to generate art in their style, and it did. And some people, it's not obvious. I'm trying not to laugh. Bear, you're not helping me.
Sorry, it's true. She's right. It's true.
And so you could see your face one day, on a piece of AI art, and you never gave permission. And Getty Images is suing in England because they never gave permission, and they have copyright all over their pictures. And AI didn't care. AI used them anyway. So there are two lawsuits.
But does the AI like spit out the copyright, or does it know how to like lift that out of a photo? You know what I mean? Like,
well,
no,
they have
the
a few
stamp,
scribbles where they're like, "Oh, there's something always here," and you're like, "It thinks that's what it thinks the signature is," and you're like, "Great."
So it's just like it just doesn't understand what that is. Yeah.
Right.
So about like Eva at 9:15, I don't know if AI is picking on the style, but there's plenty of filters on Instagram and TikTok that are in the style of Disney characters. Plenty.
Yeah.
AI will scrape all images, including all of us who have social. I agree with what Shannon's saying. I mean, and Eva set it up earlier. It's sort of any of us with online lives. Our voices, our faces. I mean, especially those of us with YouTubes, with deep fakes and stuff now. I'm assuming all of us could be victims of that if you're on any kind of social platform like this. I don't know.
I will say that, like, someone in the Authortube community was showing me, like, whatever that website with My Heritage or whatever the hell it was. And I was like, you had to upload, like, 20 selfies or something. I was like, I don't even have that many to upload or whatever. But it said, like, the more you upload, the better it is. And there were a few where it just got the eyes so wrong. And I was like, like the person had uploaded more than 10 and it wasn't like enough to be perfect. And I was like,
wow.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yep. So yeah, here we are. Good on copyright for rejecting it. I don't know if that's going to be a step in the right direction. But I think Midjourney has said that their images are not for resale. So anyone who's trying to use them, I think they're trying to get themselves away from any liability because they know where they got the images from. I'm reading some of the comments.
Amber's comment at 9:16.
Yeah, that's when I was reading.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh wow. That's wild.
I don't know what Midjourney is, but yeah.
Midjourney is one of the main ones that they're using for art. So when you see all of the art pictures that are coming up from AI generated art, Midjourney is one of the main ones that's doing it.
It's a bunch of websites behind AI, like individual websites.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot. Like, there's not just one website. There's a lot for images and a lot for like text are starting to pop off. And I imagine it's just a matter of time for the AI voices website specific will start to pop out.
So in these cases where there are these where people are suing AI, are they suing individual websites or all of them as a whole?
I don't think you can sue all of them as a whole yet.
Yeah, I forget. I keep forgetting what the name of it is, but I think that they're suing the main AI generator that's responsible for creating the Midjourney and some of the other ones. So they're trying to get it that way. But we'll see what happens. I'm going to read up on it some more and see if they've gotten any traction or if it ends up getting dropped. But they've got a couple of good they've got a couple of good arguments, and then there's a couple that where it could go the other way. So we'll just have to see what the law says. It's all new. It's new territory. But I think that the AI sources they just should not have underhandedly done this. If they knew that this was what they were doing, they should have given from the jump people an opt-in. And I think that there's a lot of people who would have been excited about it and would have donated pieces of art to contribute to it, just out of curiosity. But the fact that it's just something creepy about it that
it's the underhandedness. I agree.
Yeah, and without telling you, and then popping out like, this is wonderful, and everybody's like, ooh, and then everybody's like, wait a minute, how did this happen? And it's just
yeah. Why read a dystopian novel when you can read about AI?
When you can leave it. You can be in it.
Why read 1984 when you're living it? Because I'd rather not be living it.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But I do think that the ones where they're doing the audio and the people have volunteered or are being paid to lend their voices, I think that that's completely different, because they're agreeing to it. They're like, yes, you can take my voice. You can use my voice. I'm going to sit in the studio and record things for you so that you can use my voice. As long as they're only using those people's voices who have agreed to it. If they're like, we're going to use your voice, plus we're scraping the internet for everybody else's voice, that's when it's like, no, now you're doing the bad again.
Yeah, it's just like, be upfront and say, like, hey, we're going to do this. Like, it's one thing if people don't read the terms and conditions on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, where it's like, you give us permission to use any of your content to advertise our site, Yeah. And then if you read really carefully, it also includes things where it's like, it kind of implies that applies to things that you've deleted from their site as well. And then, but the narrator who had made the TikTok about how her voice had basically been sold to Apple Books by Spotify / Findaway Voices, she said that she went through the entire contract and there is nothing that says it in her contract with the author and nothing that says it in the contract. So there's nothing that says it in her contract with the author. So she had no idea. And there's something in the contract with the author for distribution. And it is like, you can't opt out of it, but it's the author signing over the rights to the narrator's
to the voice. Yeah. It was very, very strange because it's like the author doesn't own the voice of the narrator. Why you're asking for the permission? Well, not asking, just letting the author know this is something that is gonna happen and you cannot opt out. It's like they don't own the voice of the narrator. This is something that you have to talk with the narrator.
Yeah, it's someone else. Strange. It's one thing if you're saying like, oh, I'm signing over the rights of my audiobook narrated by this person to be used for marketing purposes of the thing, because the author generally owns the rights to the audiobook unless the publisher made them like sign it over, in which case they probably wouldn't be using Findaway Voices anyway. But that's still the narrator's voice. So this was like in context of like, oh, the narrator's voice is just being sold on the permission of the author, but not the narrator themselves.
Yeah. All right. We do need to wrap it up. I was kind of trying to wait a little bit to see if Barrett was going to pop back on. Let me see. And it's launching. Right.
Remember when we said this would be a 1.5 hour stream?
Yeah.
And it's been 2.5.
My goodness. And I'm so tired. So we do need to go. But thank you guys for hanging out with us for this long and for getting into all of these subjects with us. I feel like there will be something else very, very soon. Yeah.
Always.
Always. Always. We're always trying, Barrett. There's always going to be something. And I feel like especially with some of these topics, the AI topic, and then the authors trying to find their place on social media, those things are cyclical and things are always coming up with that. But with the AI especially, well, if anything new comes up, hopefully months from now, but it seems like it's almost every day that there's, especially now that the more people know about it, the more people are trying to now use it for things that I think it's getting even more attention, and probably some backlash now, where I think that at first it was like everybody's like, oh, the artists are just whining because we can do their art now, we don't need them. And it's like, no, the artists are upset because AI took their work.
Their work
Now
is being
putting them out of
stolen.
job. And now it's happening with freelancers, and regardless of how much or little they make, it is their job, it's their livelihood, and they've got to worry about AI taking those jobs. And where did AI get the intelligence to do this? You know? So it is a thing. But let's go ahead and close out. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Thank you guys, everyone in the chat who came and contributed, and so many good comments. We didn't have any problems. Not that I saw anyway. So
I'd probably allow this. This would be the only time I'd maybe allow AI to do something for me.
Yeah, everyone, thank you for having such a great conversation. There was a lot of respect
Always.
in chat. Like, this was great.
Yes, this is how people should communicate. Oh, man.
No yelling.
Mm-hmm.
No, you're evil for thinking.
No. Nobody got canceled.
No, my mom asked me. She was like, "Are you fighting?" Because she looked at me, and I was like this. And my mom was like, "Are you fighting?" I'm like, "No, I'm not." She's like, "Why are you talking like this? Like
I'm passionate."
And I'm like, "Boricua, I'm your daughter. This is how I talk."
Actually, you never realize how much you use your hands to talk until someone
mimics you.
Like,
yeah, exactly. All right, let's go ahead and outro. We'll start with Esther and swing it all the way back around, and I will close us out.
Hi, it's Esther Maria Duhar. I'm a Puerto Rican writer aspiring to be a hybrid author. Do I have anything coming out recently? Oh, I am forcing myself to write by streaming on Twitch. So if you are a Twitch user and want some co-writing sessions, the upcoming schedule is on all of my social medias, so you can check that. And just the normal, the Marina the Vampire, it's available through Vela and Coffee. And I'll eventually upload something on my channel. Oh, actually, yes, I do have something. Thursday night, I will be at Margaret's. I forgot, like, yesterday I had a birthday, and they were like, "Oh, that's awesome. We will see you tonight at 6:30. I'm like, "Wait, what? What?" They're like, "Yeah, my birthday." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I'll see you at 6:30. And I'm like, "Oh, God, I forgot about this."
That's why the day of you always confirm, because otherwise you may just assume that you got ghosted. When really the person just has really poor memory.
Charlie's like, or they don't have a planner.
Really? No, sorry, really quick tangent. I had a strength training session, like, for my healing yesterday. I had it in my calendar for weeks as 1:30. I show up, they're like, "Your appointment was at noon." And I was like, "How is that possible? Like, next week is at noon." They're like, "Yep." And so is this week. I was like, and they're like, "We can fit you in late, like we'll squeeze you in at 2. And then I'm with my trainer, and he's like, "Yeah, I was so surprised because you always show up early." And I thought, like, maybe she just, like, started the weekend early. I was like, "No, I thought it was at 1:30.
The wrong time."
Oh no. They were nice about it. My doctors just say, "Okay, your appointment's canceled because I'm busy. See you whenever I see you next year, maybe, if I can fit you in by then."
They would have been totally right to be like, "We don't have space for you. You just missed your appointment, and we're going to charge you anyway because you didn't cancel within 24 hours. But I was like, I genuinely thought it was a different time.
Oh, they were really good. Yeah, we get a lot of those. Sorry, you missed the appointment. Oh well, nothing we can do.
I know.
Honestly,
All
though,
right,
when I talk to my props, I write what they say down, and they're like, "Why are you typing?" And I'm like, "I'm gonna forget all of this the moment I'm not looking at you."
Yeah.
And the planner chat does remind me, Charlie and Esther, we need to get together to see if we can do a second quarter
Yes.
planner
Yes.
stream.
Yeah.
I will say,
I need multiple brains.
Kelly Wright on her channel Ink Study is doing like an accountability / planning for the next month on this coming Tuesday, the 28th, at 11 a.m. Eastern. So
Yes.
more
I was so
accountability
bad.
planning
I
things.
filmed half a YouTube video for my March plan with me, and then forgot to film the other half and finish the journal. And I was like, well, I guess that's I'll just skip a month. Bullet journaling on YouTube.
Or do half the month. What you should do is do half the
month.
month. And I did this on a video one time. Do half the month. I forgot the rest of the footage, so I just did 8 minutes of blackness, and I never stopped it, and people actually watched it. Like that's what's great. Not the whole thing. Like there was fall off finally. But people watched like a good 40 seconds, expecting something to happen.
What's happening here?
Never happened.
Like show half of it, and the other one is just a flip through, and that's it.
Yeah, and then be like,
bullet journalers will also
I
sometimes.
finished. Okay, then I finished and forgot to record, but here's what it looked like. Boop, boop, boop. There you
Yeah,
go.
you could do that, but also sometimes bullet journalers will like film a video of like after the month is filled out, and like you can also do that too, and like just do it super fast. You're like,
I need to film it when it's pretty. You underestimate my ability to keep my planner pretty. It doesn't belong on any social media once it's been used.
The only reason my planner is pretty because of my Chronodex stamp. Other than that, it's just words.
But you have nice writing.
Great penmanship.
I it's gross. It's like it doesn't even look like a nice diagram or Venn diagram or anything. It just looks oh no, I have got into the delirious chat.
Not you. We've been doing it for like 5
It's been going for a minute.
Yeah, I finished my outro and kind of
I was like, Esther did the outro, and then we went to Zara.
and I'm like,
I was like, I don't know if we're going back to outros or we're gonna be here at 6 a.m. And like
it's like
Charlie.
outros. Never mind. Let's chat.
My bad.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Okay, my name is Charlie, and I will eventually get back onto YouTube. But I journal and I write. And yeah, that's pretty much my life right now. So yeah. Okay, your turn, Barrett.
I'm Barrett. Tomorrow night I'm doing my last CGL at 5:30, not 3, because I have to work, unfortunately, which is why I was late tonight. Had a ton of fun. Love you guys. I'll be here every month. So come back next week and see if I fire Des. You won't know until you come, so you better set your notifications. And then Writer's Room with Morgan and Tiffany is the Tuesday every month. And I do karaoke with the one and only Margaret Pinard the second Saturday, Margaret? I don't know. I'm old. Whatever time Margaret says, I show up.
Wait,
Love you
Esther, did you mention the Romance Writers Room in your?
Oh, that was tons of fun.
No, because it doesn't have a specific day, but there's going to be a March. I have a few people already who did the the forum where they need help, and I do have already people who are interested on being a guest co-host. So yeah, that's gonna happen in March. And
this was a consented to spin-off. It's not a ripoff.
Yeah, it is a spin-off.
Look, Zara's even pulling a Richard. She's like old Richard from
the ether.
Channel the aura.
Oh gosh.
Oh wait, I have one more. I'm also doing ink studies at Kelly. Are we just? Is there a pen name? I don't even remember. I didn't even.
Veronica King is her pen name.
Bloody hell! Well, most people here will know Kelly Wright, so I'm talking to Kelly Wright, Veronica King, on the Inimitable Books channel, I think, right? Or mine? Inimitable Books. Okay.
Anyway. I'll cover it in my outro.
Okay, thanks.
This is what happens when we go long. We don't even.
Yeah,
is it my turn now? You done?
Yeah, I'm done. Love.
Okay. My name is Zara Hoffman. Ooh. I am a lot of things, but I am first and foremost nowadays the founder of Inimitable Books, LLC, a small publishing company dedicated to uplifting marginalized voices without pigeonholing authors into writing about their trauma. The first title, The Legionnaire by Samantha Tronfeld, comes out June 6th, 2023. On March 7th, we are having the cover reveal and pre-order launch of our second title, Down the Well by Veronica King, which is a pen name for Kelly Wright. It is not a secret. I did not just out my own author. And Barrett will be interviewing Kelly/Veronica, however you want to say it, on that day. The time is not fully set in stone, but it will probably be 5:30 Eastern. So that has not yet been added to the Inimitable Books YouTube channel, but it will be shortly. And I am one half of the Writers Podcast with Kelly Wright, where we talk about all things writing related, from shiny new idea through publishing and marketing, whether you're on the self-indie or traditional path to publishing. Lastly, I am the self-published author of 7 books, a young adult paranormal romance trilogy, a new adult sci-fi romance trilogy, and a standalone young adult dystopian romance novel.
Can I just say that every time you say you do your Inimitable Books intro, I'm always like, why is the pigeon not your logo? So that's really random, but because you always use the word pigeonholing, I immediately go logo.
If anything, you would think it'd be an X over a pigeon, because I don't do that.
Right? Okay, so
That's very cute. So you're on my channel. I'm Nia, the Vixen of Fiction. I'm also on all of the social medias under Vixen of Fiction. Heads up that the next Authortubers React, we usually do the last Saturday of every month, but in March, that is the Storytellers Hearth Write-a-thon, which I believe most of us are participating in. So we are going to be probably doing it on April 1st for covering the things that have happened in the month of
And then
March.
Everything we say, if it's offensive, we can say
April Fools.
April Fools was just joking.
Oh, I love that.
Don't cancel me. Yeah. So thank you guys for coming. Thank you guys for hanging out with us so late, and for such a good conversation, and for being so wonderful in the chat. Yes, you guys are awesome. And thank you so much. I know I can't grab them all, but thank you guys. And have a great one. Let me find my things so we don't have to wait forever. Bye.